swords look like. So that's
Thank you for coming to the March ACT-IAC member meeting. After a couple of meetings where we were downtown DC, we're now back at the familiar location of the Fairview Park area. We have a great program for you today. A lot of activity on the agenda. We have a terrific panel with some leading innovators in government, which you'll hear from in about half an hour after we get through some of the business meetings. I'm Dan Chanoff. I'm the chair of IAC this year. And
the President-elect, welcome to this afternoon's membership meeting.
So we have a nice and busy agenda, so why don't we just get right to it. Rick, did you want to do some just opening remarks about what's going on?
Sure. We have a very full agenda this afternoon to go over all the great work that's happening across all of the activities under ACT-IAC. So you'll hear from conferences being planned and events and forums. You'll hear from one of our SIGs. You'll hear from our professional development program, and you'll also hear from our Institute for Innovation. So you get a great sampling of all the great activity that's happening across all of our activities in ACT-IAC. But I wanted to call out some others that we are not going to have time to devote to this afternoon, but that are still pretty notable. So one is we recently completed a customer service project for VA to improve the veterans experience, and that was a very well-received project. We've completed that. We're looking to turn that into a more generic product for reuse in other agencies that may be interested in similar customer service improvement activities. And in fact, we're going to be meeting with Lisa Danzig, the government lead on that cross-agency priority of customer service next week to brief her on the results of that effort. So that's another example of great work going on. We've also kicked off the Life Events project in the Institute for Innovation as well, in terms of focusing government organization and thoughts around delivering services based on a life event. Based on a life event that a citizen may experience. In other work that we've had going on, we've just earlier this week had a shared services event that we participated in at Treasury on in success stories and what's worked well and what hasn't in shared services. We had a meeting with Tony Scott, the new federal CIO, last week, and encouraged him to engage ACT-IAC in terms of helping him with his priorities. And he outlined his priorities that very closely align with Steve Van Roekel's priorities in terms of the thematic areas and therefore the priorities that we have as ACT-IAC. We're also working with the CIO Council in a professional development opportunity in June to flesh out a two-day event to strengthen our training and our education of the government workforce. And that logically complements the work we're doing for the Office of Federal Procurement Policy and the Digital IT Acquisition Professional Program, which is, again, a workforce initiative to strengthen the workforce skill sets and competencies in the federal government. So those are just some quick highlights of all the other great work that's going on throughout ACT-IAC as we speak. At the end of this program year in June, we'll also put out an annual report on all of the great work that we've done as ACT-IAC, just to capture all of the things that you all as a community, as a set of volunteers, have contributed to as a great organization, a great community. So it's a great opportunity to reflect on the year of accomplishments we've made.
Thanks, Rick, and again, thanks to everybody here and all of your many colleagues who have made this success possible. So we can go to the next slide. So we recently named another terrific class of partners, and so you see here, we're going to call attention to the 2015 ACT-IAC Partners class. You see here the government members of that class. I'm not going to read through the names, but you can see a good diversity of agencies, some up-and-coming leaders in government in many of the different agencies. And then if we can go to the next slide, you see their counterparts in industry from a number of companies. I'm sure a number of companies that are represented here today. And again, the Partners Program is one of our premier professional development opportunities where individuals spend a year really paired up. One of those industry leaders will work closely with one of the government leaders to learn from one another about what it's like. They'll go to meetings with one another, they'll shadow in different ways, and they'll do projects. And I'm sure some of you that have been through the program know how terrific and rewarding an experience it is. And that is just one of the professional development programs that we have here, as well as others that are addressing different elements of the workforce. The Voyagers program for folks that are just sort of underneath the SES level and leader level in industry, sort of GS 13, 14 equivalent in government, and then the Associates program. And What I should talk about before we leave professional development, of course, is that each of the programs has a leadership team. And I just want to acknowledge the terrific team of leaders for the Partners Program this year. Vaughn Noga from EPA, the vice chairs from the government, Mike Donaldson, and Denise Wofford from the Library of Congress. And then on the industry side, you see there the chairs, Sundar Badanatham and Brian Kendrick and Liz Renninger, the vice chairs. So thanks again to the great leadership team for the Partners this year. Okay. Every meeting, we're always fortunate. Some of our lifeblood is that we have new members joining us all the time, and so we're fortunate to have a robust set of new members who have joined IAC since our last member meeting. So I don't know if you can see here the list. Are there any new members who are here in the room today? Okay, so raise your hand high, and let's all get to the new members. Thank you. Every new member makes us a better organization, so we're really fortunate to have you with us. Okay. So I'm now going to introduce Rebecca Sutton, who is the Industry Conference Chair for the Small Business Conference.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Sutton. I am the President and CEO of Forward Think and the Industry Chair for the 2015 Small Business Conference. Isella Dornell, the Deputy CIO of Commerce, is our government chair, and we put together a compelling program centered around our theme, the 21st Century Roadmap for Small Businesses. All of our content will highlight how small businesses can expand and enhance their growth. For example, we have sessions on exporting and SBIRs, which is the Small Business Innovation Research Program. This year we feature two sessions that we haven't had in the past, an opportunity pipeline, which will give participants an opportunity to hear from government agencies around upcoming opportunities. Our hope is to have a program person and a buyer in tandem from each of those agencies so that you can go in depth and kind of hear from them from the program side and the procurement side. And then the Emerging Technology Fair, which is open right now for registration. That's open to small businesses who want to showcase a technology. And that will be a competition as well, and there will be a winner awarded at the end of that day. Next slide, please. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is we are going to have a Back to Basics forum, which is really a training event. So typically at the Small Business Conference, there is a training track which kind of gives people a refresher on basics like bid and proposals, acquisition basics. And we felt that that kind of takes away from you also getting the plenary sessions. So we kind of extracted that from the day of and are having that as a half-day event the week before on April 15th. So we're hoping that people will register for that. And the three courses that are going to be provided on April 15th are bid and proposals, acquisition basics, and financial management for small businesses. We also have our advocacy awards, which was started last year, which goes out to the Government Advocate of the Year and the Industry Advocate of the Year. And so our Small Business Conference is April 22nd, and we invite all of you to register. And it's not just for small businesses, large businesses, nonprofits, any and everyone. Tell your friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruby. It sounds like a terrific program. Before we get to the next announcement, I have a public service announcement. In the era of the mobile world, in the spirit of the Advanced Mobility Working Group at ACT-IAC, we have two cell phones that were discovered. If you're missing a cell phone, one is actually, looks like it's a government phone, one is a phone that's unidentified. April Davis will have these at the registration desk, so we see one back here. One winner, all right. I'll start the bidding for the other one at $10. So now that was a terrific conference that's coming up, the Small Business Conference. Another terrific conference is the Management of Change Conference. We are fortunate to have Kavita Kalator, who is the industry co-chair, who will talk to us about MOC.
Do I use it?
You just probably will.
So managerial change conference that's coming up in May, 17th to the 19th, and deals with a topic that none of us know much about, right? Culture change, never have to deal with it, no problems at all, life is good. But so we looked at it and said, what is the biggest issue when it comes to change? It's usually culture, and that's going to be the theme of our conference, and we're looking at hacking culture through innovation, and looking at how you use innovation as an engine to drive cultural change within the enterprise. Next slide, please. We have a lot of stuff in the works for MOC. We already are doing a lot right now. We have this MOC sound off where we're looking for everyone over here to give us a 60 to 90-second video on 4 very important change-driven questions. All of the details are on the website, so if you could please do that. We already have over 30 videos that we have curated, and we will be sharing those via the ACT-IAC website as well as at the conference. So this is not limited to government as well as industry. We want your opinion. If you have an opinion, you should make a video. And you can make it on all 4 questions if you like. We also were able to do a hashtag challenge, which actually helped us shape one of the sessions at MOC, and also have a happy hour tomorrow at Capital Brewery if anyone wants to join us, where we'll be discussing some more stuff over drinks. And so we just go to the next slide, please, just to give you an idea of what we have in terms of plenaries. I know that's an eye chart, but we have Lisa Bodell from Kill the Company, we have Mike Walsh, who's the CEO of Tomorrow, and Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, and we also have Tony Scott, who's invited, but we're still waiting on confirmation from him, but we're hopeful, cautiously optimistic that he's going to make it. Next slide, please. In terms of the tracks, we're not actually going to have any panels. We're actually going to have hackathons because we're hacking culture. So there will all be hands-on, interactive, engaging stuff that we will be doing as a team with outputs that you can take back and use when you go back to your normal day jobs. Whether it's a list of things, resources, ideas, top 10 things. Those are the kinds of outputs that will be coming out of each of the sessions. So some of the sessions we're looking at are elephant in the room, really looking at the human aspect of change, preparing for the next wave of disruption with the Internet of Things, wisdom of the crowds on how we innovate from the outside in, life in the fast lane, looking at continuous delivery as a strategy, and various think tank and leadership toolkit sessions. We have several people in our planning committee, if I could stand, who are here today, and they have cards for you to meet us at MOC. And also are very interested, if you know anything about these topics, are interested in participating, helping, being a speaker, we need to know. We are looking for people to put together a real interesting program. So please let us know if you find any of these topics interesting and want to learn more. Or at 5 o'clock, we have our planning meeting down the hallway, so you can join us. We also have an interactive session, shorter, like most of these sessions are 90-minute sessions, but if you need to step out for a phone call, if you don't want to do the hackathon thing, we also have quick 20-minute, very interactive, useful sessions. We have meeting some of the new CIOs in town, upcoming opportunities like GSA Line 2. We have the team coming down from Kansas City to give us an update, as well as hot topics in the news. So we're going to be doing a lot with that. So we need you to participate. We need you as subject matter experts. We need you to register. Registration is open. And please ask us if you have any questions. May 17th to the 19th, and it's at Cambridge, Maryland. Thank you.
All right, and Bob was here. There you are, Bob. Great. So Bob's going to talk to us about a very interesting forum coming up in the Britain Belgium.
Good afternoon. On March 31st, we are going to have a fantastic forum downtown at 8:30 to 12:30 at the American Institute of Architects Building, centered around threat intelligence and information sharing. Anybody who's read the paper lately, has looked at what the president is doing out at the summit up in Stanford, realizes that threat intelligence and information sharing is a hot topic right now. I think over the past week there's been a bill introduced in the Senate. I think today they introduced one in the House. Everything around information sharing. It is seen as the key to all things good. Threat intelligence, when used properly, will help reduce your attack surface. It gives you an agile mobile defense. You don't have to necessarily defend everything if you know where things are coming from. So it's very, very important. And we are going to have a keynote speaker, Bobby Steffley, who is now the Director of Cybersecurity Implementation over at VIDR, former Acting Assistant Secretary for Cybersecurity and Communications over at DHS. And we're going to have two panels. First panel is going to be representatives from the FBI InfraGuard program and also from US CERT to talk about several programs that they have going on right now. And the objective of that program, that panel, is to give people, the attendees, an idea as to what is out there right now. With all the talk that you hear about information sharing and threat intelligence, you would think it's something new, but it's actually been around for a while, since PDD 63 with information sharing and analysis centers and things like that. But we're looking to perfect it, get the information out there. Our second panel is going to consist of representatives from organizations who have actually implemented these programs. So if you're looking to implement something like that within your organization, you'll hear from people who've done it successfully. You'll hear about the challenges, you'll hear about the benefits, and I think the attendees will get to leave this forum with a good idea as to what is available to them and how to use it to make the best use of it. So we hope to see you. Registration is open now if you go to the website, and look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks to you for your leadership of the Cybersecurity Shared Interest Group and the great work that SIG does. So let's hear Michael. There you are, Michael. Here. So very exciting new element of ACT-IAC's portfolio of activities is the Young Professionals Council, and it really helps us to identify and work with the next generation of leaders, learn from them, have them learn from us, and really exchange information in new and exciting ways. And Michael and Jerry will tell us about that.
Good afternoon. So my name is Jared Rowan. I'm with Wolfton Associates, and I'm co-chair along with
Mike Swanning. I work for GSA FedSim.
Great. So a little background on the Young Professionals Council. We were approached about probably at the end of last year to help lead and found a council in which we could kind of bridge the gap between some of the young professional programs that ACT-IAC puts on and then helping people engage with ACT-IAC, especially young professionals. So we're composed of 19 people. As you can see, we have a wide variety of both government agencies and industry partners, both large and small, with a group of different service providers. So this is our general mission statement. We are designed to recruit, educate, and engage young professionals, help them engage not just with ACT-IAC, but also help them engage with our industry as well. So we've distilled that down into 3 pillars. Recruit, educate, and engage. We have different opportunities and goals surrounding these 3. As you can see, we've already, even though we've only met once, we've already distilled a bunch of long-term and short-term goals, helping people get. We're going to try and engage with OMB's DITAP program. We're going to try and identify skill gaps in federal IT workforces for better awareness and how to attract and retain appropriate talent.
I just wanted to mention that we were a part of the SIG alignment focus groups that met this week to discuss how we can better start to engage government and also inject some fresher perspectives into our SIGs and maybe how we can do that a little bit better.
Okay. So a lot of these short-term and long-term initiatives, obviously 19 people can't accomplish by themselves. It's going to require not just this Young Professional Council, but also young professionals within ACT-IAC. So we're asking you to lend us your young professionals. We're going to be reaching out for assistance with facilitating these programs and also having young professionals engage with us and participate.
We also want the participation of more of the seasoned professionals as well, so that we can start to engage and reach out to senior leadership both in industry and government as well.
A lot of members of ACT-IAC have already reached out to us. Like Mike said, we participate in the SIG realignment. We have a couple different initiatives going forward. We would love to hear anybody's ideas about how we could engage further. We are looking to structure some long-term programs, including not just within ACT-IAC, but also within industry and government. So our eventual goal for this year is to host a Young Professionals Forum. We're targeting the fall of 2015. So it'll be a half-day or full-day event geared toward educating young professionals, hosting a variety of courses or topics, and having a couple different speakers as well.
And I wanted to also touch on partnering with OMB's digital IT acquisition program. So we're meeting with Joni Newhart of OMB next week to discuss how we can start to engage with that, and we'll hopefully be reporting back to you guys a little bit more about how ACT-IAC is going to play a key role with that initiative as well.
So upcoming events, we are meeting on Monday for our second meeting. We will be kind of distilling down and creating timelines for our goals and initiatives. And we are also holding our first event called Looking Ahead, Transitioning into Leadership on April 16th. We are going to be putting out a notice for that shortly. It's going to be a speaker event talking about how certain professionals have talking about their career path and how they accomplish their goals and objectives.
And making that transition from being an operational employee to being a leader within your organization, whether it be industry or government. So that's the key that we want to drive from that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Kimberly, are you here? So you heard about the Small Business Conference. We have a broader Small Business Alliance that we've talked about before with you. Kimberly Curley has done a fantastic job as the chair of this enterprise, and will come up and give us an update.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear now I'm seasoned and not old. I'm loving that word. I'm really, really loving that word. So Small Business Alliance, next slide. For those of you who haven't heard about the Small Business Alliance, we are on a heavy campaign to brand this organization. Great, awesome things happening and coming out. We have three major teams. This is the leadership team, but we have three major teams: strategic engagement, communities of interest, and events and programs. Excuse me. And this is the leadership team that's been in place since we actually commenced last year. Jeff Shen with Red Team Consulting, who couldn't be here today, will be taking over the chair position on 1 July. Everybody clap. We're excited because he's got some really, really great ideas to take it, to the next level. Brian Green just joined us, and so he is the vice chair for large business, and he heads up the strategic engagement team. Jeff Shen has been leading up the communities of interest team, and so a lot of this collective effort that has come about has been with these two great guys who, again, I'm sorry, couldn't be here today. But two meetings are tomorrow. There's a conference call for the communities of interest team at 2 o'clock. If you're interested in that, please get a card from me today. And the strategic engagement team tomorrow will be meeting at ACT-IAC to go over their program plan for the next year. Lisa Martin has been a stellar provider for us from the EC. She has been an absolute champ, has run down everything we could possibly imagine. And Casey Harris, I know she was here earlier. I gave a shout out at the EC. I got to double her. I got to triple her. I got to figure out how I can hire her because I want. She is amazing, absolutely amazing. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is just basically a quick rundown of how the two teams are organized. And so the engagement team is really about figuring everything that is an offering across ACT-IAC and making sure that your business is well suited or placed to be involved in those kinds of things. So when Bob Post has an event on the cyber security SIG, that all of our companies that do cyber or interested in doing cyber are part of the planning of those and getting some recognition. Communities of interest team are really drilling down into the socioeconomic categories. As you know, they passed a law that there is now, my mind is escaping me, excuse me, parity of all the socioeconomic categories. So a lot more focus on the other areas to be able to set aside. And this team really takes a look at all the conferences that are going on, regardless of which conference it is, and taking topics and drilling down into programs and events so that small businesses can really embrace all these great things coming out of conferences. Next slide. Programs and events team does a lot of stuff. We need lots of volunteers. We would love to have some large business engagement. Our small businesses have told us time and time again, if you can send more of the program managers and business leads from the large businesses, we'd love to get engaged with them. They've got a lot of work coming out, and I'm sure they could use you as teaming partners. Next slide. 2 big matchmaking events this year. There could be 4, but 2 definitely. We are underway with the Eagle 2 post-award teaming event. If you're interested, please let Casey know to be a host or to attend. And we are tentatively working on Encore 3. We have received word from Ditco. They think they can help support this, so we're pretty excited about that. And then we have various forums. We're starting a new series, CEO and CXO roundtables. These are more intimate sessions so that CEOs can hear directly from CXOs within the government about where they need to reinvest in their organizations, what kind of things that they need to do to make sure that their companies grow appropriately to their capabilities. Next slide. We have big rotating this year. I think I already said this one. So we have currently have 6 co-chair positions that are coming available July 1st. If you are interested in one of these, all you need to do is send an email to Casey Harris, charris@ACT-IAC.org, and put your name in the hat. For those of you interested in the vice chair for the Alliance as a small business, we are going to send out nominations for that. The executive committee will make those selections, and we're very excited about the next year. It's going to be fun. Next slide. There you go, Transformation Center.
At every meeting, we'd like to highlight the work that's done by our great SIG, and many of you are involved with it. And we're very fortunate to have Linda, who will tell us about what's going on at the meeting.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I really appreciate everybody with green on. I can't believe people are still wearing the green, but I wear it all week long. And so happy St. Patrick's Day, happy spring. And I want to talk to you today about the Collaboration Transformation SIG. So how many people actually have been members of the C&T SIG? Yeah, so usually we have a lot of people. It's the largest SIG in ACT-IAC. And we have really, really good committees, and they're doing tremendous jobs at bringing content to ACT-IAC events and forums. So I want to highlight a few of those, and I'm going to actually talk about one of our programs and one of our committees. So if you could advance to the next slide. First of all, is Adelaide here? So Adelaide asked me to make sure that I highlight the priority areas that this SIG works with. And so we work with all 4. And it's really, really important, I think, to make sure that we are supporting these different priority areas because it helps to communicate with each other about how we interact. So the 4 priority areas, who can name them without looking? Anybody? Ah, there, Dan, good. I bet Rick could do it too, yeah? And I know Adelaide could do it, but the 4 are digital government, secure sharing and safeguarding information, planning management and delivery process, and evolving the workforce. So the 2 I'm going to highlight today actually are around the planning management and delivery processes to improve the strategic value of IT. The first is a project program that we've been working on, and it's really, really exciting. We were asked by VA, the CFO, and VHA to support them in looking at what might help them in moving forward in some of their IT projects. And so what we actually did is we talked to commercial organizations, commercial hospitals that have the same exact issue and are actually finishing up interviews, I think this week or next week. And during that process, we've learned a lot of really good lessons learned and best practices. We're compiling all of those into a white paper, and then there will be a forum in June at which we discuss some of those. We have very high-level government participation in this, and it's really exciting, you know, seeing some of the things that we've been able to identify working with commercial organizations. So this is one of my favorite projects. This is actually out of our Financial Management Committee, and there are a number of other projects that they actually have done. Next slide, please. The committee that I want to highlight is our Shared Services Committee. So this committee is headed by Stephanie Mango, who's not here today, but one of our more experienced ACT-IAC leaders. And we are working within the Collaboration and Transformation SIG, but we also are working very closely with the other SIGs and forums, events, the Academy, to make sure that we are supporting across ACT-IAC shared services. And so Stephanie wanted to make sure that I let everybody know we are looking for volunteers for this, and please let us know. The last thing that I wanted to tell you guys is you have some immediate opportunities. I know Kimberly talked about opportunities in July, but I'm even better. I've got opportunities right now for 3 positions, 3 leadership positions. One is our communications chair, program chair, and knowledge management chair. These are really, really cool positions. We need people to help us to get the word out to people about what we're doing and to make sure that we're communicating across ACT-IAC. I have to leave, but I have these little cards I put together. I'm going to put them in the back. I know you guys are going to want to volunteer. I will even write my home phone number on here, I think. But anyway, I appreciate your attention. Thanks.
All right. So before we get into the program, to introduce the program is the Executive Director of our Institute for Innovation, Sarah DiCarlo. Before Sarah comes to the stage, Rick and I just want to make note of the fact that this is Sarah's final meeting as an ACT-IAC staff member and leader of the Institute for Innovation before she goes and retires officially from that position, moves on to bigger and better things like hanging out and doing fun things with her life. But we just wanted to reflect, and I wanted to just take a moment to remark on Sarah's incredible influence on this organization over the years, on me as an individual, on many people in the room, and many people who are not here. When I first was associated with this organization, Sarah was the head of the program committee. I was at OMB, and Sarah would recruit me to be a speaker at the programs. Sarah later was one of my predecessors as the chair of IAC, and has also chaired major conferences of various sorts through the years, and has made this organization and the government better for it. So Sarah, thank you so much for everything you've done.
And obviously, Dan reflected on Sarah's history with ACT-IAC, but I want to take a moment to reflect on her most recent experience as the leader of our Institute for Innovation, which she's been an exceptional leader of. She's produced innumerable projects and products from the Institute over the last several years, and most notably, she's hosted 2 incredibly successful events, Igniting Innovation, where she started off the first one with a vision, and she executed on it, and the second one, she surpassed herself in terms of attracting a huge amount of interest across the community, government and industry, and a huge opportunity to celebrate innovation in government when there was not always the most flattering attention paid to government and IT. So I want to just thank her for all the incredible effort she's devoted over the last couple of years in that area in particular. So thank you, Sarah.
Everybody knows that I'm always long-winded, but I will try not to be, because I know that we really want to hear from our speakers. But thank you all very much. I mean, this last job in particular has been so much fun, and it's hard to step away from it. But I really think that it's going to need, you know, even more attention than I actually want to bring to it, because I have, you can see me on Facebook. I'm going to be in London and Iceland and South Africa between now and mid-June. So, and they're all separate trips. So if you see me, I'll just be jet lagged and doing laundry. So anyway, I'm going to be busy and maybe even find some time for the golf course. So we'll see. I did want to just mention what Rick has already mentioned, which is the paper that was initially done. We did one for VA. It was done through the Institute, but really driven by the Customer Experience Task Force that was stood up with Martha Doris and Jim Williams. They did a fabulous job pulling together a team and really put together in 6 weeks, which is just terrific. It shows that the Institute can turn on a dime if we really need to do something quickly. We did a project for the VA on how to stand up a customer experience office. I thought it was so good that I thought we should, I've made up a new word, genericize it. Okay, so it's now a generic paper that could be used by any federal, state, local agency that wants to stand up its own customer experience office. We're going to be posting the paper, here it is, but after like the end of next week, like probably next Friday. And we would encourage you, if you have customers that who would benefit from this. It has a 90-day plan with all the different functions that any customer experience office would like to have. It has a draft staffing plan that might be valuable to people. So I just encourage you to take a look at it. And if you just say, oh, I know somebody who could get value from that, please go to the ACT-IAC website and grab it and use it. And hopefully it will find its way in all sorts of wonderful circles. I also wanted just to give a little quick report on Igniting Innovation, because we have our wonderful winners here of our Dynamite Awards and our overall Igniting Innovation Award. And they'll be telling you about their projects in just a second. But for a second-year effort, I just have to tell you, I'm so excited that we had 103 nominations. From that, we selected 30, which is the same number as last year. So we really want to sort of raise the bar for the number of submissions each year and keep those that we select, the top 30, is really top-notch programs and really exemplary of the great things that are going on through government. We were very excited this year. We had both federal, state, and local. And in fact, the overall winner was a local project for New York City. So that was very exciting to all of us as well. We had defense and civilian represented. If you were there with 800 of your other closest and dearest friends. And we had Megan Smith, who was the she's what now, about 5 months or so into her job as the Chief Technology Officer for the country speak. She doesn't get out often, so we were really, really thrilled that she was able to come and spend some time with us. She took a lot of notes on what was going on, and we had, I think, Sage folks told me that we had more coverage for that event than we've had for any other ACT-IAC event. So great news. It includes Andy Robinson will give little autographs. He was on Government Matters. And that was really great to see that we got recognition, on the Channel 7 airwaves as well. So Rick mentioned that we're kicking off live events. I think actually, if I'm not over-speaking, there's probably room on 2 of the subcommittees for people to still join, the information sharing one and the performance management one. So if you have an interest in either one of those, write which one on the back of a card, and we could send you a description of it, and then you could really look and see if that is really what you want to do. But they're just getting kicked off now. So we could use a couple more volunteers on those particular subcommittees, being chaired by Herb Strauss, who's here from SA, and Pete Wilson from ICF. So I think that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Andy, and he'll introduce the speakers. And thank you all once again for that nice applause. I appreciate it.
I got to say a word or two about Sarah. When she was the chair, I was the vice chair, and she really fundamentally changed the organization, because she came in and said, look, you're going to support me in my term when I'm chairman of mayors, I'm going to support you. And that was the first time that from chair to chair to chair, the programs continue, and that was huge. It was a right governance model, and it was a departure from the past, and it was big. Don't look at me like that, you made me cry. The other thing was she actually identified the first VA Vista project, and that became the Institute of Innovation. And so I thank her for her professionalism, her leadership. She always gets the job done, and her friendship. Thank you, Sarah. If the panel can come up, we'll get started here. I'm just going to go ahead and start talking a bit here. I told the panel this is unrehearsed. If we screw up 2 or 3 times, that's okay. But I want to congratulate all the winners here. Go ahead and grab your seats and plug in. They came from a lot of about 103. We shrunk them down to 40, and then they became almost 100. Let's see here. Let's get situated here. So I'm going to a little bit about the logistics here, and I am going to start off. We're going to actually have them present 5 slides and talk about 5 minutes, and we'll just go through them like that. Then I'm going to ask some questions, and then if we have some audience questions, we'll go to that as well. Let me make some introductions here, though. That's a pin. Somewhere here is a set of glasses. Okay, we have Cliff and Titus, Department of Veterans Affairs. Raise your hand there, Cliff. Carl Diak with NCI. Carrie Mitchell with Transportation Security Administration. Cordell Schachter with New York Department of Transportation, and Ron Sykes with Social Security Administration. We're going to go in this order, I hope. New York Department of Transportation, and Cordell, could you come on up and talk about that? And we'll get the slides on the screen there, if you would.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks very much for this opportunity, and thanks ACT-IAC for the award. It was quite a surprise. Given that this is an award about innovation, and hopefully that's why you're all here this afternoon to hear us, I'm going to start with kind of an overview of what I think made our project the most innovative, and in the course of that, describe what it is. The first is, not on the slide, is that we elected to insource the project team. We hired some basic body shop contractors, but our PMO director, Vargas Abraham, who joins me today, thought it would be the best way to accelerate our procurement cycle, as well as give us the control over the program while the requirements were being developed. And it was very new for us and new for the city. And I told him that if he was successful, I'd shave my head. And that was 3 years ago, and it hasn't grown back yet. We're still on a good path with it. And our challenge was that we had about 500,000 requests for people to tear up streets that are otherwise in really good condition. And that's to improve their infrastructure and either improve it by laying fiber optics, replace or fix one of our 150-year-old water mains, repair steam and gas leaks, and managing that and having traffic flow is quite a challenge for our staff. The number of permits 10 years ago was less than a quarter, and with business development, additional construction, the need to improve infrastructure, particularly communications infrastructure, it keeps increasing at an increasing rate. We have a number of work processes involved with it, and we were talking at lunch. This was a process that was on the mainframe, very difficult to program and make changes, and the people who were responsible for it knew those technologies, but were getting on in years and started to retire, so we were at risk of not being able to support the technology going forward. So what we did is we elected to take that big circle in the center and decouple it from the others and begin to work on it. The second innovation is that we thought that we were going to just do the project initially for one neighborhood. An important neighborhood, Lower Manhattan, and we had HUD money, part of the vision, the ground zero rebuilding. And it turned out that when we developed the business requirements and the technology, we had the opportunity to not only just cut over that neighborhood and then gradually cut over other areas of the city, but to cut the whole city over at once. And it was a lot to swallow initially and think, wow, we're going to go from one system to the next almost day by day. But it was the right move. And having the technology platform in place and being able to make this kind of cut, and working very closely with our stakeholders allowed us to do that. We had three basic interfaces or stakeholder groups. Our internal clients who manage those permits and decide whether or not to approve them and what conditions to approve them, like what hours people can work, how many lanes of traffic can they occupy. The second is the people applying for the permits, our partners, are the utilities in New York City, plumbing contractors, other city agencies that need to dig the streets up. The third is the general public, who don't want construction in the street, don't want anyone keeping them away at night, want all the lanes of traffic available either to move or to park in. So the three different groups needed different interfaces to do their work. So our third innovation was to decide that the application was going to be mobile friendly, be able to perform all of its functions on a tablet, but also have some functionality on smartphones, as well as desktop computers, so that we would serve all three of our application channels and stakeholder communities from the same code base. And we decided that we would take on the initial application development complexity for less complexity and fewer code bases to maintain going down the road. And it also turned out to be very successful for us. So the application now is 24/7, works anywhere, anytime, on any device, based on the HTML5 framework that it uses. Anybody's device, any manufacturer's device that conforms to the HTML5 standard will represent the data. And for us, that's very important. I'm not sure if you can see it on the slide or here. DOT, responsible for transportation. We're really responsible for geography, the city's streets and sidewalks, so that the central interface for us for this application and other applications we're developing is the city's map. And leaving text behind and really disciplining yourself to be menu-driven and map-driven and trying to remember what each of our channels and the stakeholders in that channel are going to need at any given point in time imposes a discipline for really crisp application and customer interface programming that makes this worthwhile for everyone. So we've had a tremendously successful program in no small measure for the stakeholder group that we deal with. Two of the features of the project which seem to be the best received were actually some of the easiest. One is we visualized the location of the proposed work using Google Street View. And just by linking to that existing service generally available to the public, our project managers as well as our customers themselves have a view to the street that they wouldn't have just by looking at a map interface. And the second is by really thinking about the public and how they can play a role in helping us, especially enforce the permit conditions, by making all of the permit details available through the public interface on any device. We now have 8 million pairs of eyes all over the city letting us know if somebody is working at 10 o'clock at night keeping their kids awake. And it's an expansion and an enhancement of the city's own enforcement efforts that we couldn't do without them. And that also has been tremendously received, and we've learned a lot of lessons about engaging essentially the crowdsourcing and using open data as a way of enhancing all of our efforts. conference. So it's been a great time. It's a great application. We had a fantastic team led by Marquise Abraham here, and it's really set the standard for a lot of the other work that we're doing. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Cordell, and that was the overall winner as well. We're now going to have Ron Sykes with Social Security Administration talk about their communities.
This is just a title slide here showing all the different pieces that we were trying to address. In the fact that we've got collecting data, we need to secure the data, detect fraud, which was our primary objective, save money, which is always big, and then at the same time as all these other things, we wanted to protect your privacy. Everyone says protect their privacy in this whole project. So could we go to the next slide, please? This is really the only slide we're going to address, and it shows the timeline on here. And what we had was an interesting issue within SSA that we were expanding the number of applications that we were developing. We were bringing some of the work outside of the agency to the public so that the public could register for I-claims, or they could now change their address or change their property transit number, the bank information. And we were catching up with all the things internally, but then with things exposed outwards, we needed a better way to audit all this information, which is the job at the time was my primary responsibility to make sure all the data was audited. What we needed was a way to do this so that we could do searches, like you do with Google. You don't have to predefine that one of the things that we want to key on is your address, or your phone number, or your P.O. box, or your middle name, or whatever the investigators would think of at the time. We needed a way that we could build something out that wasn't relational, but was easily searchable. And as we were going through all the different possibilities, we got a paper that was about 2011 on Hadoop from our then CIO. And we took a look at it and said, this looks like a good fit for us. So we went to our technology area, and they said, no, you're not going to do that. We're only working we're not working with commodity servers. We're not working with Linux. We're not working with open source. And definitely not working with direct attached storage. So all these things start, you need to pick up something else. So what we did, instead of just walking away, we said, all right, we're just going to take a few minutes here, and we're going to do a little bit more research. So we took a PC that was going to be accessed. After they're out of warranty, we access them out and they're recycled. So we saved one. And we put Hadoop on there and showed that we could get it to work. So then I asked the team, what's the next step? Well, we need to connect it. We need to show that this thing can work in parallel. And then we can push data out to all these different PCs, process them, and get the results back. And I said, well, what's that going to take? $50 to get a switch. I said, here's $50, go get the switch. They collected another 5 PCs that were just ready to go out the door, put them together, and it worked. It worked really, really well. We were able to show that we could push data that we had in the agency to all these different PCs. We could bring back the information quickly. And so at that point, we were able to go to our C-level and say, this is what we've done so far with $50 and just working kind of on the side in an R&D way. So they gave us $3,000 to get commercial grade switch, connect 26 PCs together. And this is about the point in time, like our current project manager, Judy Gropp, said, we were getting a reputation as Victorian grave robbers, where we were going out and getting PCs, and somewhere in between the point where we were connected 26 PCs and 100, people were stopping me in the hallway and saying, how do I stop you from taking my PC? I really need that. But so we went from $3,000 for a switch to connect 26. At that point in time, when we were done proving that concept, we were running at 60 times faster than a multi-million-dollar mainframe on these 26 used PCs. So then what we did is we went up to 100 PCs. What we were trying to show is what it would look like in a production environment. We could put a huge amount of data out there. We could bring back data very quickly. We were able to show failover by actually disconnecting whole sections of the cluster. At one time by accident, one guy tripped over a power cord or something, and about 25 PCs just went dead. But they were able to bring back up with all the data right away. And then from there we developed a really cool thing. It shows up here, it doesn't show very well, but we developed an API, it's number 2 on there, an API that goes from Hadoop to our Java web server applications. And we weren't able to buy them. We went out and looked to see who was doing that. We couldn't find anyone that was doing it. So we developed it in-house. And then we were also able to move on to the next steps, which were giving us production capabilities. We brought in small sets of servers that were very much like a production environment and able to set those up. Along the way, what we were able to do is put production data onto these R&D clusters because they were secured, and we were able to show that we could do rapid prototyping to address fraud quicker. We were able to look for anomalies very quickly. So along the way, not only were we proving out that, yes, this is a good way for us to go in storing and processing our audit data, but we were able to do other things as well to help the agency move along in addressing fraud and abuse. And the third thing that we have here that we came up with is an advanced data analytics lab. We went to our C-level and said that we've got the capacity now, we have the experience in working with this type of technology. We think that we should be able to help the agency move into advanced analytics. We've got a huge amount of data. I think it's 27, pardon? 29 petabytes of information. We need to be able to access that information and make some sense out of it, do some advanced analytics, do some visualization to help the agency move into new directions and give us better data for decisions. So those are really the key pieces that we were trying to address. We did it not really slowly, but incrementally, so that so our risk was low. Then we moved into custom coding for the API, and then the advanced data analytics lab. So those are the things that we were trying to show at the innovation seminar, or igniting innovation over the back. So these were the key things, really non-standard. We had to work as partners within the organization and actually go outside the organization to the new industry that was supporting to do. It was innovative and risky for us because it was all new. Low cost. Like I said, we started with $50. I think that when we went up to 100 PCs, it was actually $70,000. So it was still pretty low investment. And then we came up with our groundbreaking web service. So that's really just a quick background on how we got to where we are. And we are at a point now where we're implementing our high-end user interface later this month and making it available to all the investigators at the agency. So, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. $70 beat that price again.
Yeah.
U.S. Army, Carl, is going to talk to us about some of their innovation.
So I'm Carl Diop with NCI Information Systems. So the one common element of all of these fantastic innovations is a network transport mechanism. So that's where it may seem mundane, but it's a requirement across the board. So our task was modernizing, you can go to the next slide, please. Modernizing the network infrastructure within NetComm's headquarters out of Fort Worth. So NetComm is the Army's Network Enterprise Technology Command and is responsible for maintaining and upgrading the Army enterprise. So within their facility, basically the building was a 65-year-old building and the network had basically remained the same from there, or to that date. The requirement was upgrade the infrastructure and not lose sight. Previous slide, please. Sorry, sounds like I'm skipping, but I'm not. There we go. So the requirement is to upgrade the infrastructure, maintain security, and throughput to the end user. What we were able to do is provide both. Now, fighting is, I'll control, please. Yeah, so upgrading the infrastructure at that particular installation meant securing the network itself, the physical network, for the data that traversed that network. So not only was it connecting computers, but it was connecting computers securely. So the solution in working with the NetComm engineers and Army Information Systems Engineering Command engineers was to deploy a PON solution with a security layer on top of it. PON is a passive optical networking. It's an architecture that allows for a one-to-many
network transport. So it reduces cabling out to the end user. Adding a layer of security on top of that is integrating the security, moving that from a physical security perspective to a network managed security perspective. So what we were able to do is to take a task that was done by a human basically and make it a task done by a network box. May or may not be the end result for what standard sysadmins want, but it modernized their capability and reduced costs for them. So, like I said, the facility itself is about 65 years old, and what they had ended up doing to incrementally move the network into the stage that it was in 2011, 2012 was to take broom closets and telecommunications closets that had housed analog punch-down blocks and cram hot, loud, power-consuming network gear into it. A lot of times what would happen was a device would overheat, and so they would crack a door open and put a fan blowing into it and hope that a network segment would magically come back online. So by implementing the PON solution, we were able to remove the requirement of 24 network telecommunications closet and functionally serve the same user base with three telecommunications closets. It reduced the network footprint from a telecommunications closet perspective by 89%, but it also removed a massive pathway issue. So this facility, being 65 years old, didn't have a lot of the modern pathways that we're used to in the infrastructure world. So, having a single strand of fiber optic cable out to 64 or 128 users meant a lot easier, not only implementation, but a lot of cost savings in the operations and maintenance and future upgrades of this network. So the secure piece of it, though, the innovative piece is integrating these existing technologies. So adding the security layer to the passive optical network allowed for network monitoring of any tampering that might occur on that fiber optic cable. So where traditionally a soldier would have to make daily rounds and inspect protective distribution systems, the hardened carriers that are all bolted to the walls, this would remove that requirement of that soldier walking around performing that activity and move it into a once weekly network monitored event. So not only did we reduce the power and the cooling requirements, but we reduced the manpower requirements to support that activity. Now I think we can get to this. So this is just our partners in the endeavor, as well as our NetCo.
Next is Cliff with the VA. During the break, happy hour, Cliff has got incredible information on Unity Fall. So, that issue.
Okay, thank you. My name is Cliff Ankaitis. I'm with the Veterans Affairs, but I'm also the VHA Office of Systems Redesign and Improvement. And we did this project in collaboration with Synthesis, Dan Swedberg sitting down here. And before I go on, I do want to acknowledge the prime mover of this tool is Dr. Gary Tyndall. He's in Syracuse, New York, but he's also our National Emergency Department Medical Director. So he couldn't come down. He was just down in DC last week, so he couldn't come down again, but he's really sort of the brain behind all this. So this is the Emergency Care Services mission. And really the important point here is there's 150 emergency departments and urgent care clinics. The tool is called the Emergency Medicine Management Tool, and it has been implemented in the emergency departments. Right now it's in the process of being implemented in the urgent care clinics. Here are the goals. So the main goal was to digitize the emergency department whiteboards. And as you can see in the top picture, it was handwritten notes and little stickies and magnetic items stuck on a board, and that was the technology And it actually still exists in some hospitals, not in the VA, but it's been replaced with the ED digitized whiteboard, which you see at the bottom. And I also want to point out that this tool was developed in-house through our office, working with Synthesis, Dr. Tyndall, VSSC, which is the VHA Support Services, and they do all of the data cubes and all the analytical cubes and reports for all of VHA, so they helped us, as well as Healthcare Innovations, which is one of the offices we work closely with. So this is sort of, so the EMMT is broken into here are two of the major parts. There's a third part, which I'll tell you in a second. The first part was basically an analysis tool. And so we have, as you can see, the columns, there's 20-some columns, and those are different metrics, and allows the facilities, see the little red square, that represents your facility. And in the VA, facilities are organized by size. So like a 1A facility is a larger facility, 2B is a smaller. So let's say my facility is a 1A, I can look down across my region or nationally and see all the similar 1A facilities and see how they're doing across these various measures. So that allows comparison. The color coding is very helpful. Standard red, green, yellow, which we all know what that is. And the ability to drill down, so you can drill down from the facility to the region, from the national level to the facility region, and then the facility level. The major point of the analysis tool is it enables the frontline staff to address problems. So that's one of the key points of the analysis tool. The performance dashboard allows both a national and regional view, as well as facility leadership, to look at how they compare across those categories, as well as looking at historical data, trending data, which is always important. And the last piece, and this is probably the takeaway here, is the operational risk calculation in that red square. And basically that's a calculated field, taking all the other measures with a heavy weighting on the data integrity, the data validity piece, because if the data is not valid, then the measure doesn't mean anything. So that's one of the strongest weighting within that operational risk. And it allows Dr. Tyndall and then both regional and facility leadership to sort of assess what's going on and whether there is a risk. So here is our tool broken out into some of the Igniting Innovations categories, and I'll just talk about sort of the key points. The near real-time monitoring, again, that's super important. It brings the processes from a data analyst type person in the back room, it brings it forward for the staff to be able to figure out something's going on here, we need to take a look. We have a lot of lean training in the VA, and so folks can sort of start a project. It devolves that approach down to the clinic level. The other fact-based conversations, so on the collaboration and engagement, allows fact-based conversations between providers and management. So another important point, this tool actually in 1 year reduced the door-to-doc time. There were 4 measures that we looked at nationally. This was one of them. It reduced it from 42 minutes to 37 minutes nationally, and that to me is a huge, huge improvement, as well as the non-complex ER visit cycle time was reduced to 2 hours and 30 minutes. And lastly, I mentioned it before, but right now it's in all the emergency departments and being expanded into the urgent care clinics. And in fact, on the outpatient side, the primary care and specialty care clinics, they happen to see the tool somehow and they love it, and they're evaluating it right now for possible use as a patient flow tool within the clinic. So we don't know where that's going, but that's a kind of a good sign. Here are the offices and groups that work together. So obviously Dr. Gary Tyndall, he's the National Director for Emergency Medicine. I mentioned VHA Support Services Center. I'm in the Office of Systems Redesign at the bottom. We have a governance committee that works on this tool, and the exciting piece is that we have this EMT, and we actually have other tools that we're working on. Also, you know, just grassroots without money. We're just working on it with some of the other offices that are helping us out. I mean, obviously it's staff time, but this is not a very expensive endeavor. And then Synthesis, and they've been a great partner in this entire effort. So thank you.
We did hear this in the Uniting Innovations Shark Tank, where the ROI on innovation is not that good. It's scary, some figures that they're from the That was universal across a lot of submissions. Carrie, talk to us about TSA.
Hi everyone, I'm Carrie Mitchell. I'm here from the Transportation and Security Administration, and I realize that I stand between you and happy hour, so I will be very brief. So I'm here to talk about the TSA PreCheck application program. So real quick, if there's anyone in the room that doesn't travel or fly much, I'll just explain what TSA PreCheck is. So it is one of the Department of Homeland Security's trusted traveler programs. It allows TSA to identify low-risk travelers. It allows those travelers, when they're at the airport, to go through expedited screening at the security checkpoint. So you can keep your shoes on. If you have a light jacket, you keep that on. Keep your liquids and your laptops in your bag. It's a convenience for travelers, and it was exciting for TSA to be able to take our approach to risk-based security and provide something positive for the public. So that was the goal. Just some key points on the program. Applicants have to be U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. They have to meet the requirements of the program and pass the security threat assessment or background checks that we require. And then assuming all that works out, on the other end, there's a fee that's paid at $85 for a 5-year benefit. And on the other end, assuming the applicant is cleared, they receive a known traveler number, which they use when they book travel, and that's what makes them eligible for the TSA PreCheck benefit. So specifically what the innovation was here was TSA was looking for a way to create a program that the public could enroll in that allowed them to get this benefit and to get that out very quickly. So TSA already had a number of security threat assessment programs for people that work in transportation. So what we did was we took the existing technology, infrastructure, physical enrollment site locations that we had already deployed for some of our other programs and onboarded this new concept of enrolling for TSA PreCheck. So we were able to launch and offer this service in about 10 months, which is speed of light, government time. We had our first enrollment center open at the Indianapolis Airport in December of 2013. So it's just over a year later, we have just about 1 million folks enrolled into the TSA PreCheck application program. I think our keys to success was we were tasked by senior leadership at DHS and TSA to figure out how to make this possible. And so we looked at what were the assets that we already had available. And we had a network of enrollment sites, over 300 across the nation. For our other security threat assessment programs, we had the technology infrastructure in place for those programs, and it was applicable to this concept. And we had our operations all set up, again, to support other security threat assessment programs, but it worked for this use as well. So we leveraged that, which allowed us to basically get started quickly We had a very small amount of seed money just to make the few tweaks we needed to on the technology side. And we had a network of offices that were used to working together to implement security threat assessment programs. So we used the same groups and contacts that were already involved with this type of project. We had senior level backing. We had very frequent meetings to keep everyone apprised of what we were doing, and we were able to get out the door quickly. So this is my last slide. This is just a map of where our enrollment centers are. We have over 330 enrollment centers now. One thing TSA needs help with is marketing. So take this and tell some friends to come to TSA.gov, look up TSA PreCheck, and you'll find links to how to enroll, what you need to do, where our enrollment centers are located, what you need to bring. It's a super easy process. It takes about 6 to 8 minutes when you're actually in the enrollment center to sign up. And so our focus now is marketing and continuing to expand our enrollment services, our locations, and all that. But we've heard so far the public response has been very good, and we hope to continue to expand. Thank you.
John, how much time do we have? Are we over, John? 10 minutes? What if I do this? I'm going to forego my questions and see if there's any questions in the audience of any of these award winners. We have a microphone in the back. Any questions? Going once. Oh, we got Lisa. There's three, too, I'm sure.
This is a question for the TSA PreCheck. I enrolled in the global literature, and I do, sorry. I enrolled in global literature, and I still have, and I'd love to help. I'd love to figure this out.
Yeah.
When I put my number in, sometimes the TSA PreCheck doesn't come. And so it's something like yoga.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so one of the hard parts with TSA PreCheck is once we get people enrolled, how do you then use your number or your benefit to get through expedited screening? So TSA PreCheck application program is TSA's program where you can enroll, you get a known traveler number, and you use that to travel. You can also go through CBP, Customs and Border Patrol program, to what you're talking about with global entry, that also provides you with the TSA PreCheck benefit. So there's a number of ways to get the benefit. Some people will just, they'll show up at the airport and they'll see the marking on their boarding pass and they don't even know how they got it. It's because there's a number of different risk-based initiatives and rules that TSA is implementing to determine who are low-risk passengers that can go through that TSA PreCheck lane. But the problem with that is sometimes things don't work because there's a lot of touch points. So for one is go through your airline. So when you, first of all, your number, it has to be inputted exactly right on your reservation to ensure it is. All your data that you use when you enrolled, your name and date of birth, has to be an exact match on your airline ticket and what you've used to enroll. And so any deviation in that could cause it to fall out. We also have issues with airlines technology when they're sending the data over to TSA. If something gets mixed up in the data and it's passed there, so there's a potential that it could be falling out there, or that some people input what is their known traveler number into their frequent flyer field, or there's a field for redress number. So there's a lot of ways that actually using it can get complicated. So we're trying to put out better information on how do you make sure it works once you get it. So they all have their little issues that we try to work with them. So we do have a call center at TSA that can help you work through those issues. So please reach out to the call center and they can help try to identify what's happening if it's not working.
Wonderful. Raise your hand if you got another question. I'm going to sneak one in here as well. Can you talk about your funding model? We talked about that at lunch, now that
Sure.
you got your funding.
Yeah.
A couple questions there in that.
Hi, Sharon King from General Dynamics. My question is going to be directed at the gentleman from Social Security Administration. I was very impressed how you just kind of put that system together yourself, and they told you no. And I'm curious, how much savings or how much, I guess, revenue or fraud was avoided because of your innovation? Was there a figure that you can track?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways of looking at it. One is that the cost of this current solution in production, not with what we built, but with actual production grade equipment, is roughly $1,000 to $1,300 a terabyte. In our current accounting with disks within SSA, it's $13 a gigabyte. So the cost savings there, just in storage, is huge. The cost of accessing the data, right now what we'll be able to do is provide, I think our longest searches have taken about 30 minutes, whereas before it would take almost 24 hours. So the savings in that is big. I think those are probably the best ways of looking at it as far as those two things. And also with the $1,300 per terabyte, that's not just storing, like with the $13 per gigabyte, but that's storing and processing together. So we're seeing that it would be a huge amount of savings. Another aspect of it is that with the technology behind it, you don't have to build the complex data models ahead of time. So you save in that as well. You don't have to define anything about the data until you actually want to read it, which is similar back to, when we were working with, when I was working with cards back in the 70s. So those are probably the best numbers that I can give you at this time.
Thanks. Gary, can you answer that question real quick on the funding and how you got it, and then we'll go to the question in the back.
Yeah, so because TSA is required for many of our security guard assessment programs, they must be fee-funded and self-sustaining. That definitely helped in that we used existing, infrastructure, as I mentioned, to roll out. We just needed a small amount of seed money that we were able to get, reprogrammed from another Trusted Traveler initiative, and use that just, as just seed money to get the technology tweaks going. But then we relied on that if we build it, they will come and we would get fees, and that would support what we needed to grow in terms of our operation and support and all that. And so that's effectively how it worked in our case.
Beautiful. Question in the back?
The common thread of you all is that it's innovation. And several of you have said you use small amounts of money, or when people said no. Well, most of your solutions involve software. Now, if you moved ahead with these innovations, where's the funds coming to maintain them? How did you get those? How they happen? Because maintenance is just important in software, isn't it?
Was that for anyone, Jim, or does anyone want to accept that?
I can try to address it from our perspective in that, in my answer to the prior question, since we don't have to build complex models out and try to maintain those every time we add a field or add new events or things like that, we save a tremendous amount of time and money and maintenance in that respect. As we move away from what we built years ago, we'll have to start maintaining this current process. And yes, it's going to be probably a transition. We're hoping at this point it's going to be a lot lighter maintenance issue than the current one, because we're so heavily involved within each one of the applications that we track. And we're looking at a much lower imprint on those projects going forward. So that's what we're projecting, is that the maintenance costs will be substantially lower in the future.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up with one more question. I had this question: what effects have there been on your career? And they all said, we don't want to answer that because the answer is more work. So we won't talk about that. But I want to talk to Cordell just a little bit. Your next innovation is around has Agile. Can you talk about how some of the best practices you're learning with procuring Agile services?
So what we've developed through this project, and we're using it on others, is a hybrid approach. We have similar types of very long, painful New York City government procurement processes that if we go full RFP, probably means from idea to seeing product is somewhere around 3 years. And that's if the process goes well. And we've had others that, a vendor who's the apparent winner doesn't pass the integrity checks and you're back a couple of steps. So what we've done to try to make up time is one, that insourcing, so it was a less big bang of a procurement. The second is in order to procure anything, we have to state our scope and our business requirements, but then we implement using agile methodologies. And even where we bid out or RFP, large firm fixed price projects, we ask for the delivery to be iterative according to an agile methodology. So we like to think we have the best where we obey the city's rules for procurement, but yet gain the agility and kind of document-like approach and ability to modify requirements, see software periodically, set up monthly review dates for payments, all of which keeps all the wheels greased. And we're looking for delivery on our current project for about maybe a third of the way through in 12 months. That would normally have been 2 or 3 years.
How's the review cycle? We've had a trick of the trade on the review cycle.
Yeah, probably every 2 weeks we see an iteration, and our project teams are seeing new software and code. And then at that monthly review gate is an executive review that, if it goes well, will approve the milestone payment. So we have those 2 cycles going on simultaneously.
Thank you very much. I want to, if you could all offer applause for our in closing, the Institute of Innovation, the next big project coming up is going to be the quadrennial papers, or the transition papers. And these are the papers that we deliver to the next administration. And they usually take these and enact some of it within their administration's agenda. So it's very important work. We do this every 4 years. We'll be looking for volunteers, and we'll be calling out for those volunteers shortly. I think now we can adjourn to somewhere to have a drink. Thank you very much. Thank you.